ever felt weighed down by regret? Mateo did too. But what if the way forward isn't what you think? Stick around to see how he found peace. And maybe, just maybe, you'll find some answers too. In the quiet town of Castaños Lejos, located in Cavite, lived a man named Mateo. Castaños Lejos was a peaceful place where life moved slowly. The townspeople were close-knit, always ready to lend a hand to their neighbors. But ever since Mateo arrived years ago, no one had to ask for help anymore. Mateo was always there, ready before anyone else even knew they needed him. Mateo had appeared one day, seemingly out of nowhere, with only a small bag of tools and a sad, distant look in his eyes. He said little about his past, but he quickly became a familiar figure in the town. If a roof leaked during a storm, Mateo would be there to fix it. If someone was sick, Mateo would stay by their side, offering remedies and comfort. If food was scarce, Mateo would share what little he had, often going without so that others could have enough. The people of Castaños Lejos loved Mateo. He was a gentle soul who asked for nothing in return for his kindness. But the townspeople couldn't help but wonder, why did he give so much of himself? What was the story behind the sadness in his eyes? Whenever someone asked him about his past, Mateo would simply smile and change the subject. Beneath his warm smile and helpful nature, Mateo carried a heavy burden that no one could see. Years before Mateo arrived in Castaños Lejos, he had lived a very different life in a busy town by the sea. There he had a loving wife named Ana and a little daughter named Isai. Their home was filled with laughter and love, and for a time Mateo believed he was the happiest man in the world. But Mateo was also a hard-working man. He spent long hours at a demanding job, always pushing himself to provide a better future for his family. Each day he would leave early in the morning and return late at night, too tired to do more than kiss his daughter goodnight and hold his wife's hand for a brief moment before falling asleep. Ana would often ask him to take a break, to spend more time with them, and little Isai would beg him to play. Mateo would smile at them both and say, "Tomorrow. I'll have more time tomorrow." But tomorrow never came. One day, as Mateo sat in a long meeting at work, Ana and Isai decided to visit Ana's sister in a nearby town. They asked Mateo to come with them, but he waved them off, saying he was too busy. "Next time," he promised, as he always did. But that afternoon, as Mateo was wrapping up his workday, he received the devastating news. Their carriage had been struck by a runaway wagon on a winding mountain road. Both Ana and Isai had died instantly. The loss shattered Mateo. He couldn't stop thinking that if he had only gone with them that day, things might have been different. The guilt ate away at him. And no matter how much time passed, the pain never dulled. Unable to bear the constant reminders of his loss, Mateo left the town by the sea and wandered aimlessly until he found himself in the remote town of Castaños Lejos, where no one knew his story. There he hoped to bury his grief by helping others, even if he couldn't help himself. In Castaños Lejos, Mateo began a new life, dedicating himself entirely to the service of the townspeople. Every act of kindness was a way for him to atone for the guilt he carried, a small offering to a past he could never change. Whether it was building a new well, mending a broken fence, or caring for a sick child, Mateo was always there, quietly making life better for those around him. He never complained, never asked for anything in return, and never let on that every good deed was also a small attempt to heal the wound inside him. The townspeople admired Mateo deeply. To them, he was a blessing, a man whose generosity seemed to know no bounds. But what they didn't see was the sadness Mateo carried it with him. He didn't help others out of joy, but out of a deep sense of guilt. He believed that if he could do enough good in the world, perhaps one day he could forgive himself for not being there when his wife and daughter needed him most. Despite his constant efforts, the weight of his past never truly lifted. Mateo would often sit alone at night, staring out at the darkened hills, his thoughts filled with memories of Anna's laughter and Isai's bright, smiling face. No matter how many people he helped, the guilt still lingered in his heart, a shadow that followed him wherever he went. One stormy night, as rain poured down in sheets and the wind howled through the narrow streets of Castaños Lejos, a desperate knock came at Mateo's door. It was the town's mayor, drenched and panicked. His young son, Luis, had fallen gravely ill, and no one in the town knew how to help him. Without a second thought, Mateo grabbed his bag of herbs and remedies and followed the mayor through the storm to his home. Luis lay in bed, burning with fever and barely conscious. His mother sat by his side, her face pale with worry. Mateo knelt beside the boy and began tending to him, his hands steady despite the storm raging outside. For hours, Mateo stayed by Luis's side, wiping his forehead with cool cloths and coaxing him to sip water. As dawn began to break, the fever finally broke as well, and Luis's breathing eased. He was going to be okay. Exhausted but relieved, Mateo slumped into a chair beside the bed. As he sat there, Luis's mother approached him quietly. She had heard whispers of Mateo's past from a traveling merchant who had passed through the town months before, and tonight she felt the need to speak. "I know about Anna and Isai," she said gently, sitting down beside Mateo. Mateo's body stiffened at the mention of their names, but he remained silent. "You've given so much to this town," she continued, "but you carry so much pain with you. You can't keep punishing yourself. You've already done more than enough." Mateo closed his eyes, his throat tight with emotion. "I wasn't there for them," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the sound of the rain. "If I had been there, they might still be alive. This helping others, it's the only way I know how to make up for what I did." Luis's mother placed a gentle hand on Mateo's arm. "But Mateo, don't you see? You've already made up for it. You've given us so much. You've saved lives, brought joy to so many. It's time to forgive yourself. Your family would want you to live, not just survive." Mateo sat in silence, her words echoing in his mind. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to feel the full weight of his grief, and with it, a small sliver of hope. Perhaps, just perhaps, he didn't need to carry his guilt alone anymore. In the weeks that followed, Mateo began to change. He still helped the people of Castaños Lejos, but now there was a lightness in his step that hadn't been there before. He started to talk more openly about his past, not as a way of seeking sympathy, but as a way of healing. The townspeople who had always admired Mateo now understood the depth of his kindness and the journey that had brought him to their town. They embraced him with even more love and gratitude, and Mateo began to feel for the first time in years that he was truly part of the community. One evening, as the sun set over the hills, casting a golden light over Castaños Lejos, Mateo stood at the edge of town, watching the sky turn shades of pink and orange. He thought of Anna and Isai, their faces forever etched in his memory. Though he still missed them with every beat of his heart, Mateo realized that his guilt didn't need to define him. He could honor their memory not by punishing himself, but by living a life full of love and kindness. And as he continued to help the people around him, Mateo often felt as though Anna and Isai were watching over him, proud of the man he had become, not because he was trying to atone, but because he had learned to live again. Mateo's story teaches us that we all make mistakes and carry regrets, but true healing comes from letting go of guilt and choosing to live with love and kindness. No matter what you've been through, it's never too late to find peace and make a positive difference in the lives of others. We honor the past by embracing the present and moving forward with hope. Thank you so much for watching. If you loved what you heard, please subscribe to our channel and ring the notification bell so you never miss a new tale.